What's going on, you guys, and welcome back to WrestleRant. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and every single Tuesday right here on the show, I give my ranting thoughts on all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network in preparation for Payback on Sunday, presented by the Raw brand. Here today, we're talking about the Payback 2016 show from, obviously, just last year. So I enjoyed the show the first time. I enjoyed it just as much the second time. Thoroughly entertaining event, emanating from Chicago for the third time in Payback history. I believe the 2013 and 2014 installments emanated from Chi-Town. 2015, I think, was in Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken. So back in Chicago for this show. At the time, this show is credited for kicking off the new era. In retrospect, and which is why I like doing these shows a year later, because, I have my thoughts on the time, at the time on these shows. You can check out my full written review of Payback 2016 on the website, nextairwrestling.net, for my, immediate thoughts on the show from that point in time. But a year later, I like to look at things, how they've changed, how things have not changed, for better or for worse, which we'll talk about momentarily. But going into the show, they called it the new era, coming out of WrestleMania 32. And it was to an extent, but in my opinion, this new era, if you even really want to call it that, started coming out of Battleground with that first Raw when Finn Balor became the new number one contender. He debuted on Raw and beat Roman Reigns in the main event, that amazing Raw from last year. And then SmackDown Live the next night with the brand split, the renewal of the brand split, and all the new championships, all that other shit. That, to me, was when really the New Day, which I'll get to in a second as well, the new era had kicked off. And there were some planting of the seeds at this point in time with AJ Styles coming into his own as a main event player in WWE. A lot of other cool things happening, but really, in my opinion, the new era had kicked off with this fresh feel around the product coming out of Battleground a few months later. But this was still a really, really good show. I will not be talking about the kickoff matches. Those are also available on the network separately. I just talk about the pay-per-views themselves. But quick 2 cents, Ziggler beating Corbin, I was fucking pissed at. The match itself wasn't bad, but Ziggler being the first one to pin Corbin on the main roster via a roll-up of all things, I just thought it was so stupid. I guess it could have been more decisive, but I just thought that was so dumb at the time. I was like, why? Just fuck you, that's why. I think that was the gif I posted at the time, the meme I posted at the time, and it's still, not any less stupid here today, thinking back a year later. Corbin's fine, of course, but still, I thought that was just so dumb at the time. Kalisto beating Ryback in what would become Ryback's final WWE match. He would walk out in the company the very next night at the Raw taping. So, again, I'm not going to talk about the match. It was a good match. Probably definitely one of the better matches of Ryback's career, and Kalisto for that matter as well, in a short singles career here in WWE. But yeah, Ryback's final match was also on the show in Chicago. So yeah, kicking off the actual show is the Vaudevillains taking on Enzo Amore and Big Cass in the finals of the New Day's number one contender tag team title tournament, where the winners would go on to earn a future shot against the New Day for the tag team titles. The match went all of 4 minutes. New Day were promptly sitting at ringside with pizza, beanbag chairs, on their phones, but it took a very serious tone. Only 4 minutes into the matchup when Simon Gotch fucking launched Enzo into the bottom rope, receiving a concussion upon impact, did Enzo. It was a very, very scary spot. I saw it making the way, it's making the rounds around social media that night. Not only among wrestling fans, but someone had asked me about it a day or two later, in class. I don't know why. Now that I think about it, I have no idea why. I think I had said something about liking wrestling and someone brought it up. I have no idea. They were like, oh, was that scripted? No, it wasn't fucking scripted, you idiot. The guy was actually hurt, and it looked bad. But thankfully, Enzo was okay. They would supply updates on his health throughout the remainder of the evening. So I thought the way they handled this was very, very classy. But no, this was not scripted, not the way that it was supposed to go down. The match ended in 4 minutes. So I can't really judge the match. The Vaudevillains, who were probably supposed to win anyway, after interference from the Dudley Boys to kind of further that feud between Enzo and Cass versus the Dudley Boys going into Extreme Rules the following month, or later on that month, rather. I believe the ending outcome would not have changed. It said initially the match ended in a no contest. They would announce the next night the Vaudevillains actually won, which is technically, they said by technical knockout here on Wikipedia, but I don't know, that was weird. So kind of a sad note to start the show off with, considering, it's a new era, and then someone gets hurt in the first 5 minutes. Shit happens, and thank God Enzo was okay. He would come back in literally 3 weeks' time. So it's a shame this match was not what it could have been. After that, we had Kevin Owens taking on Sami Zayn one-on-one for the first time on the main roster. This was a fucking fantastic match. I love the way they did this. Of course, the Battleground bout many months later would kind of steal this one's thunder because I thought that match was better and one of the best matches of the year by far. This was still a great match, though, and really what made it special was one thing, the video package. The video package was fucking phenomenal because it touched upon every aspect of this feud that made it great and every little bit of storytelling they had done since NXT a year and a half earlier. From Owens debuting on the same night that Sami Zayn won the NXT Championship, and also the same night that Owens would betray Sami Zayn at the end of that show, beating him 2 months later to the day Owens did to win the NXT Championship from Sami Zayn, putting him on the shelf, attacking him in the Royal Rumble, did Sami Zayn upon his return to the ring on the main roster, the two going at it at WrestleMania. Just everything about this was so fucking good. Was the video package, and it matched the matchup too, because the matchup was equally excellent. I thought both guys here were absolutely awesome. And the best part about it was that the initial two matches they had in NXT, they weren't bad. They were two very, very good matches, especially from a storytelling standpoint. But both bouts ended either via technical knockout, that one being scripted, not like the Enzo one previously, but via, referee stoppage or just a no contest, whatever, at TakeOver, Rival, and Unstoppable, respectively. They were good matches, but they were purely storytelling, tools. They were really just ways to further the feud without beating one guy or the other. Sami Zayn lost clean here, but it did not hinder his momentum whatsoever. Zayn was super over here. I mean, he still is now, but he was super popular on this show. The crowd was into him. They were into Kevin Owens. They were into this feud, really benefiting from taking place early on in the evening, also tying into the subsequent matchup for the Intercontinental Championship. But this was absolutely excellent from both guys. They really put forth an amazing effort here. And in the end, as I had said, Kevin Owens emerging victorious for the 1-2-3, taking the mic afterwards from Byron Saxton, who we called into the ring to interview him, not doing a very good job, if you would ask KO. But yeah, just a very well-wrestled matchup, followed up by Kevin Owens cutting a promo saying that now that Sami Zayn is out of his way, that he's going to reset his sights, reset his focus on getting back the Intercontinental Championship. So he takes a seat of commentary. Owens makes Miz and Cesaro, who have a good match, that much more entertaining with his commentary and his insight. I'm just burying Michael Cole, telling Byron Saxton to call his mother, and it's just a lot of good shit here from Kevin Owens in this match. But yeah, so speaking of which, Miz and Cesaro for the Intercontinental Championship. Miz walking in the defending champion after winning that belt a month prior on Raw against Sami Zayn, or rather Zack Ryder, the night after WrestleMania in fluke fashion. Also marking the return of Maurice on the main roster. So yeah, a good match, made that much more entertaining, as I had said, by the Kevin Owens commentary. But the match itself was really, really good. Miz and Cesaro were really just kind of starting to work together really, really well. They had some good matches in 2013 as well over the U.S. Championship, where the roles reversed. But I thought, the spring of 2016 was really when they came into, it really started having the matches that they were capable of. And I thought the match they had on SmackDown a couple months after this, about a month or so after this, or a couple weeks even after this, after Extreme Rules, was even better than this match was. But this was a good match. At the end, Cesaro was closing in on the Intercontinental Championship, while Kevin Owens was on commentary. Sami Zayn came down to rekindle that rivalry after only 15, 20 minutes. They start brawling all around ringside. That distracts Cesaro. He eats a roll-up from The Miz, who retains his Intercontinental Championship. KO comes in the ring afterwards, lays out Sami Zayn, lays out The Miz, or he was attempted to laying out The Miz, and The Miz just up and left with his IC title, or he tried to before Kevin Owens gained possession of the belt, and he held it high to close out the segment. So, again, awesome stuff here that would set the stage for that phenomenal fucking Extreme Rules match a couple weeks after this that I was in attendance for. I cannot wait to watch that show and talk all about it, because that show was absolutely phenomenal. But anyway, so good stuff here. Dean Ambrose taking on Chris Jericho up next, and a pretty good match. I mean, started out a bit slow, their first ever one-on-one encounter in WWE on TV, so not too surprised. There were a few sloppy spots early on. The crowd really was not all that into it. I did thoroughly enjoy this feud. There were a lot of great feuds in 2016. I thought Sasha and Charlotte was obviously awesome. You have AJ Styles and John Cena, personally one of my favorite feuds, if not my favorite feud of all time. AJ and Jericho. But I thought the feud that Jericho and Ambrose had that spring was also really, really good, and a great tool to kind of get Ambrose back in the limelight, give him a few great wins over Jericho on this show, in addition to Extreme Rules a couple weeks later, building into Ambrose's WWE title victory at the Money in the Bank show about a month later. So, yeah, I thought this match was really good. Early on, again, a couple sloppy spots here and there, but they picked up the pace down the stretch. The final few minutes were really, really good. Ambrose winning in clean fashion to score the pay-per-view win. His first one-on-one pay-per-view victory since the Royal Rumble. So, enjoyed this to keep the feud alive. After that, for the Women's Championship, Charlotte defending the gold against Natalya. Obviously, in Charlotte's corner was Ric Flair. In Natalya's corner was Bret Hart. We had already seen this almost exactly 2 years earlier at the NXT TakeOver. Just TakeOver, no TakeOver Dallas or TakeOver the End, whatever. It was just TakeOver. The first ever TakeOver, aside from Arrival, a few months before that. And that match was one of the greatest matches in NXT history. This was not quite that. The crowd was kind of dead for this. Natalya was just, she's a better heel than she is a babyface, but just people could not bring themselves to care. They had to trot fucking Bret Hart out there to get people invested in this match. And even then, the guy did nothing for the most part. Other than just, I guess they wanted the visual of him putting Ric Flair in the sharpshooter the same time that Natalya did the sharpshooter to Charlotte afterwards. That double sharpshooter, I guess. That visual was cool, but was it really worth trotting the guy out there after beating prostate cancer a couple months before this? I wouldn't say so. It's always great to see Bret Hart, but if he's not in a meaningful role, then why even bother? He himself has said that. He does not want to be brought out for fucking meaningless shit, let alone an awful, awful, awful rehash of the Montreal Screwjob. How many times have we seen this shit? I know it was supposed to put heat on Charlotte, but there's other fucking ways to do that. Like, the whole reason they trotted Bret Hart out there was to ensure there were no shenanigans in this match. And they did them anyway. And they would do them the next couple weeks after this at Extreme Rules. So this feud was plagued with just terrible finishes. So the match itself was not bad, but I thought their best work came in NXT. A good match, but not what it could have. Even their Roadblock match. The Roadblock match in early 2016 was better than this. But still, it was all right, just with just a terrible finish. With the fucking rehash of the Montreal Screwjob for the upteenth time. After that, we had Vince McMahon coming out, making his return to WWE TV, saying he would name a new general manager or owner, whatever, authority figure for Raw between Stephanie and Shane. This dragged on way longer than it needed to. The crowd loved Shane. There were parts of this that I liked, part of the exchanges that I thought were good. But this was like a opening Raw promo. I couldn't even tell you how long it was. It lasted fucking forever, though. Because Ambrose and Jericho was done by like 9 o'clock, and there were still like an hour and a half, 2 hours left in the show. In this promo went at least a half an hour. It lasted a long fucking time. And nothing really was accomplished. Vince would say, oh, you're both going to run Raw. And just, we got to create that competition, which still has yet to come, really, between Raw and SmackDown. We've seen some parts of it since, SummerSlam and Survivor Series, but other than that, not a lot of competition going on between Raw and SmackDown Live even a year later. But yeah, I just thought this promo just did not need to happen. Just, if it happened on Raw, I probably would have complained, but I expect this type of shit on Raw, not on a pay-per-view where the matches really should be taking center stage and not the promos and the segments. Shane was great. I thought Shane did a great job. The people loved him. Chicago fucking loves Shane O'Mac, but Stephanie's unbearable. Vince is always great too, but it's like, oh my God. If Shane was not going to be named the sole owner of Monday Night Raw, then who the fuck cares? I think the saving grace of the segment at the time for me was that I was really, really hoping that we would get some sort of match down the line between Shane and Triple H at SummerSlam, and we wouldn't get that. That just went completely nowhere. Of course, the brand split would happen. I think they must have had an idea they were going to do it. They announced it 3 weeks after this. Only like 2 or 3 weeks after this event took place, they announced the brand split. So they must have known they were going to do it. So maybe they knew that all the entire time, that Shane would take SmackDown and Stephanie would take Raw. I'm not really, in terms of the commissioners and all that other shit, I'm not really sure. But I held out hope that this would be just simply killing time until Triple H came back to face off against Shane at SummerSlam, and that would not come to be, unfortunately. So then we get to the main event. For the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, it was Roman Reigns defending against AJ Styles in an excellent main event. The only thing about this match I didn't like, which I guess some people might argue added to the element of excitement, added to the enjoyment of the matchup, whatever, etc., was the overbooking. So originally, AJ won the match via countout. He delivered a phenomenal forearm to Roman Reigns on the outside through the commentary table. Great spot. He gets back in the ring. Roman does not. AJ wins the match, but not the title via countout. A championship cannot change hands, only via pinfall or submission, or I guess referee stoppage too. But so Shane comes out and says, no. That's how we have ended a main event match in the old era, but in the new era, we restart the matches. We give these people the finish they want to see. So we restart the match. It goes another couple more minutes before Roman does something. I forgot what he did, but he inadvertently low-blowed AJ Styles. So AJ once again wins via disqualification, but not the championship. So then Stephanie trots out there and says, we're going to restart this match one more time, and this time no countouts and no disqualifications. So kind of shades of not nearly as worse, not nearly as bad, but not quite as bad as Orton and Cena from SummerSlam 09 and the fucking million restarts that match had. That was terrible. This match was definitely better than that just because the match itself was excellent, overbooking aside. So anyway, with no rules, no DQs, no countouts, out comes the Club, who was still not on the same page as AJ. AJ had no idea they were going to be out there. They would help him lay out Roman Reigns, and then AJ would follow that up with a phenomenal forearm with a close 2 count. That was great. The Usos come down, they brawl with the Club, or they weren't called the Club at this point, but they brawl with Gallows and Anderson back up the ramp. And that leaves us with AJ and Reigns in the ring. They keep on going at it. Again, a lot of great near falls here from the Superman punch, a couple of them to the phenomenal forearm, to the 450 splash. A lot of great shit here. So the overbooking aside, I thought the final stretch of this match, which I thought would be plagued in my memory, I thought the final few minutes were like, oh man, this is so predictable. It really wasn't. AJ got a lot of close near falls in this match, and he was already a star coming in. But I think for a lot of people that were not familiar with his work prior to WWE, saw him in an all-new light coming out of this matchup. So he came close, but no cigar. In the end, Roman Reigns hitting the spear to retain his WWE title. So amazing main event. I thought their Extreme Rules match was better, but this was still a great match. At least the overbooking in that match made sense because it was no disqualification and no countout. It was Extreme Rules. So I can't wait to talk about that match and watch it back for the first time since being there. Surprisingly enough, I have not yet seen that match in its entirety since I was there a year ago, which is great. But anyway, so I look forward to talking about that in a couple weeks. Next week, I think, is another In Your House review, so we'll talk about it then next Tuesday right here on the show. But yeah, in terms of Payback 2016, a really enjoyable event. I really enjoyed the show at the time and even watching it back a year later. So yeah, check it out on the network. If there's any one match to watch, I gotta say it's Owens and Zayn. I thought Owens and Zayn stole the show. I mean, they would have a better bout at Battleground a couple months later, but that was still the best match of the night in my opinion. The main event was also great. Ambrose and Jericho turned into a really good match. Miz and Cesaro was good. The Enzo injury was unfortunate. The Divas title match, women's title, whatever, was not what it could have been. Just terrible finish. And the promo from the McMahons was a complete waste of time. But, all things considered, a 2 thumbs up worthy show. So check it out on the network. I appreciate your support. Thanks for listening to this review, watching, whatever, on YouTube. Be sure to leave a like, a comment, share the video, subscribe to the channel. New videos going up every single day of the week. And yeah, we'll be back here with an all-new episode of WrestleRant next Tuesday. Until then, guys, I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road.